name is Ian Hodgkinson. Edna's my mom. You tricked me. You told me that blanket was mine. Coming here, so it kind of throws me off. Interesting day. I'd like to say thank you very much to Chief and Council for letting me come today. And I know it's early, and this is not the most comfortable theme to address, especially on a Sunday morning. It's unfortunate, but it's something that we need to do. I have a bad habit of going on and on and on, so I'll try to do my best to keep it short. Well, not short, but you know what I mean. I have over 25 years of hands-on experience in different countries dealing with these topics that we're going to address. Really briefly, I don't think I need to touch too much on the history of the Guardian Angel program. I'm sure you've heard about it in the news lately. The Guardian Angel project has 37 years of experience, starting in New York City in the 70s, and now we're in over 129 countries throughout the world doing volunteer work. Originally, we formed to take back the streets and the community of New York City from the drug dealers and the corruption and the unfortunate situation that was happening in New York City. The economic state left New York without police officers from 5 o'clock at night till 7 o'clock in the morning, 7 days a week. So as you can imagine, it was an intense situation. So we physically had to go out and take back the streets. Today, we're a little bit more diverse in our programming. We're really focused on youth, bullying in the schools, and one of our big ones is what we're going to talk about today: violence, domestic violence, gang violence, drug abuse, drug use, and what's killing our young people. Not the way I wanted to start my Sunday morning, but it is what it is. And of course, I have my notes here, and I want you to forgive me. Please don't think it's disrespectful. I know what I'm going to say, but I spent the last 30 years in Mexico City and in Latin America dealing with these problems, so a lot of what I have is still in Spanish, so I just need to kind of do this, right? So I know what I'm going to say. It's unfortunate that there is going to be a walk at 11 o'clock for something it's unacceptable, and there is no way to address a situation like that. A lot of us in this profession, I can speak briefly. I'm sure I don't know if it's the right word, it's co-workers, but the people who share this profession with me, we take demons home at night, because when you deal with this, I'm a father, single father, and I'm panicking when my daughter has to cross the street by herself. She's 14. I don't understand how somebody can inflict anything on a young person, boy or girl. It's just, it's unbearable. So in saying that, the reason I would like to go the route I'm going to go today with this speech or this presentation is we had a situation in Mexico, in Ciudad Juarez, which is above El Paso. It's obviously a Latin community, but in that region, there's a lot of indigenous people too. And there's something, I don't know if you know about it, but it's going on. There is 3,800 women every 6 months that go disappearing, that are murdered, tortured, sold for sex slaves, all these kind of things. We tried to go in and do a documentary. I tried to go in with a self-defense program for the women. I was kidnapped, I was beaten, was tortured by the cartels that run this little thing going on down there. It's a devastating thing, but thank God, speaking of the Creator, we all have a different name, a different version, but it all leads to the same direction at the end, right? I'm here for a reason, and I survived those kind of things. And in saying that, I've accumulated points of view, through my experiences dealing with violence, domestic violence, making our community safer. And unfortunately, there are a million programs out there that offer alternatives and solutions. But in reality, the big one that I see is we all suffer an addiction, the huge addiction of silence. It's a brutal thing, because if you be quiet, you're just inviting yourself to be a victim. And it's he said, she said, it's not his fault, it's not her fault, it's why me, why me, why me. Well, that's an addiction. And I'm gonna give you about 12 or 13 points of view right now that are mostly common sense, but they're just an eye-opener. So in saying that, the biggest thing that I see in my experience, and I have no idea why my voice is shaking. I feel like I'm in puberty for some reason. Well, I'm only 14, so it's kind of weird. What's going on? I think it's because my mom phoned me at midnight last night to make sure that I wouldn't forget to be here on time. I didn't fall back asleep, and I filled myself full of coffee, something like this. Okay. I always try to infuse a little bit of humor in these kind of things because it's so tragic. I'm a human being just like you, and this hurts. So after this is done, the day will go on, but I go home and I'm gonna have tears. I can't believe that there's a young woman who, anyways, we all know the story. One of the biggest things that we don't do, well, the biggest thing that we don't do, and you could agree with me or disagree, but it is what it is. I will fight from this point to the end of time because it is the reality. There is a lack of, and it's almost non-existent, communication in the community. Without communication, and that's a pretty big word, and I'm going to touch on that everywhere, and I'm not just talking about communicating like talking. There is not an awareness in the community. There's not it's spiritual, it's physical, it's mental, it's verbal, it's visual, it's all these things under one umbrella. This is probably the cause that domestic violence or violence in the community in general continues. Because if you do not know how to identify the signs, you're not going to understand how to confront the problem. Now, signs of violence, domestic violence, could be verbal, it's obviously physical. This is a strange one, but it's true. Think about what I'm going to say. It could be economical. Okay, I guess it's not that strange. Making you suffer, beg to eat, beg to have clothes, beg to be warm, beg to have water, those kind of things. That is an abuse. Control techniques, manipulation. All that stuff exists today. Now, if you do not know how to diagnose that, you are going to be stuck in domestic violence and violence in the community for the rest of the time. Because domestic violence doesn't have a gender or a race. It exists everywhere. I think we agree on that, yes? So the big one is know how to identify these problems because they exist every day. And this doesn't happen just with, there's no age group. And today, a lot more young people are suffering these things than ever. It existed all through time. When I was a kid, it existed, but it wasn't as, you couldn't see it as much because today, social media, telephones, everybody has a telephone. So, and the biggest thing amongst kids is they use this domestic violence as ammunition to attack their peers. Because you can hide behind texts, you can hide behind Snapchat, you can hide behind Twitter, you can hide behind Facebook under different aliases. And sometimes what I see, and you can say, well, that kid's a real, I'm sorry, Mom, I won't say bad words. That kid's a real, it's a bad kid. Well, maybe we're missing the point. Maybe that young person or that man or woman is exploding because that's their cry for help, is attacking another person because that's all they know. That's a big thing that makes sense, but a lot of us aren't willing to accept. Because if it's our kid, our spouse, our partner that's being attacked, the first thing you want to do, I think I'm just nervous. the easiest thing for us to do is retaliate, because that's all we know. And it's a big thing to make that change, flip that switch, and understand you need to take a step back, calm down, look at it with a cold head, open your eyes, and listen. Listening is the key. If you don't listen, you ain't gonna learn, right? We get that? We kind of agree or no?
Agree. Sure.
Well, there you go. Step number 2, get your community educated. There is more than enough resources in Thunder Bay, worldwide, on the internet, books, programs, everything you can think of, volunteers, professionals. There are tons and tons of options today that didn't exist 10, 15 years ago. Even in schools, there are counselors, there are special classes kids can take, young people, even us guys, adults. There is access to all this information here. You need to get your community educated. You need to know these things exist. You need to know what number to call. You need to know where to go. You need to take alternative routes than the things that have been done for ages, because they're not working. They're outdated, and there are other alternatives. Because today in 2015, violence in the community and violence in your home, it's just unacceptable. It can be stopped, period. You're gonna say, well, no, yes it can. So I'm a pretty firm believer in that. Get your community organized. Education and organization are two different things. You need to have, and I'll give you an example real quick. You need to have a safe house. You need to have neighbors on board. You need to have somebody like, so you can understand real quick, like a team, a crisis management team, we'll say, just for a better word. You need to have somebody say, you can use my house, you can use my phone, or somebody can say, hey, she's getting hit again, he's getting hit again, there's a fight. That person tells, that person calls the police. You know what I mean? Organization. You need to have a plan, because if you don't, the only thing that's going to happen is it's going to continue. You're going to hear about it 2 or 3 days later, and the violent cycle will just continue to go on and on and on, and it won't change. So organization and education, big things. This is weird. It's a picture of me.
Hopefully it's a good one.
It's awesome. You need to teach your community about the accesses you have to these programs through technology. Everybody has an iPad and an iPhone or some type of Android phone. There are ways to protect yourself with that. There are applications available. All you got to do is look for them that are emergency applications. Some of them are emergency first aid. Some of them are all the emergency numbers in your community. Some of them are support. We had it in Mexico. If you pressed the button, the emergency panic button on your phone, the police, fire department, ambulance had to be there within 2 minutes, period, no matter where you were. It's a pretty cool thing. It's a little more advanced. Why is it more advanced? Because it takes a satellite and all these other kind of things. I don't know if it exists here in Thunder Bay just yet, but there are other alternatives. That's just an example. Through technology, having an emergency number programmed in your telephone, for example, speed dial. A good way to put it is, like, for example, 911. Instead of doing this and star, and you just put A 911, because A is the first letter in the alphabet. You press number 1 and go straight to the police. That type of thing is a big plus in your favor. A lot of people don't know about it. A lot of people don't believe in it, but it works. Make sense? Yeah. Make sense?
Yeah.
Well, come on, man. I'm talking. You guys got to respond. Domestic violence intervention. Tough. Tough call to make. But very simple. If you hear for your neighbor in a dispute, this is an example again, an argument, and it's not the everyday argument. You can hear that it's getting a little bit rougher. You gotta be prepared to stand up. What do you gotta do? You gotta ring the doorbell, knock on the door, play dumb, but send a message. Go and ask for a cup of sugar. Go and ask to use the phone. Or simply say, hey, Is everybody okay? Just that little break that can cause a distance between the two people that are arguing might be enough to save somebody's life. Because in the heat of the moment, you never know what's going to happen. But if somebody, for example, not that I would know, but you know when you're choking somebody, and you hear a knock on the door, just doing this might be enough to save someone.
This is James with Net News Ledger. We're on the streets of Thunder Bay with the Guardian Angels. The training and the efforts that the Guardian Angels are doing is making it increasingly popular for people to be downtown. Earlier today, when the businesses were open, the Guardian Angels were out and they were making sure people felt safe in the downtown of Thunder Bay. Tonight, we're walking up Arthur Street, and as you can see, there's a group of angels recognizable by their white jackets that say Guardian Angels Safety Patrol.